Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Prometheus, starring Noomi Rapace, Michael Fassbender, Guy Pearce, Idris Elba, Logan Marshall Green, and Charlize Theron, and directed by Ridley Scott. Before I get into this review, I have to confess something. I was so excited to see this movie opening midnight showing in IMAX 3D. I confessionably was in line for about 10 hours to get inside the theater, and unfortunately, at times I fell asleep during the movie because I was tired at the time. I was waiting in line when are we letting us in? When are they letting us in? When are they letting us in? That kind of thing. What did I think about this movie? Well, that's what this show is here for to discuss. So the 20th Century Fox, as well as the Dune and Scott Free productions, were all in blue. It was actually clever in a way that it was pretty neat. This movie was pretty to look at for the visuals in 3D or in IMAX 3D. We're first introduced to the engineer, as they call him in the movie, for reasons I don't understand, but whatever. Our creator was just a cool looking creature, but the scene where we're introduced to him raises more questions than it answers. Here are 3 examples. 1. What the hell was he drinking? 2. Why did he choke like the way he did after he drank it? And 3. Why does he die at the end of that scene, and then at the end of the movie, next thing you know, he shows up out of the blue? Or maybe it's a different one, but who knows. It's just way too confusing. We're introduced to Noomi Rapace's character Elizabeth Shaw in the next scene, and I would personally have to say she was a weak protagonist compared to Sigourney Weaver's Ripley. And fun fact, it wasn't supposed to be Noomi Rapace's part, it was supposed to be Charlize Theron's part. And why did she end up playing the character she did in Charlize, I mean? The answer is, she was trying to film Mad Max Fury Road, which was under production hell for the longest time. Charlize was free at last minute and took the role of Meredith Vickers, which Michelle Yeoh was going to play from her. Now, in case you don't know who Michelle Yeoh is, she was most well known to me for Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Anyways, the point is Charlize took the part of Meredith Vickers for Michelle Yeoh. I do love Michael Fassbender's introduction as David and how he plays basketball on a bicycle, and watching and quoting Lawrence of Arabia. The quote, and I want to put it out there, "The trick, William Potter, is not minding that it hurts." That shows how good of an actor he really is. The movie takes place in Christmas time in the year 2091, which is kind of an interesting choice for a scary movie in space, setting time for Christmas. Peter Whalen being played by Guy Pearce in this horrible makeup job. This movie as well as Iron Man 3 have 3 things in common. 1. It's Christmas time. 2. He's a bad guy. And 3. Under all this bad makeup by poor Guy Pearce, which I'll get into what I mean by that when we get to Iron Man 3 next year. But here he's like an old man. And that's bad makeup for a lot of he just looks not old. Charlize Theron's character, Vickers, is kind of a bitchy character, but I guess that's the point. I don't mind that, really. I like the character played by Miss Theron. I was being sarcastic, by the way. The character, Dr. Charlie Holloway, I haven't seen this actor in anything but this, and I can think because, I don't know, I just haven't seen him around. But he's an okay character. He's tormenting David is actually a little bit unnecessary in the movie, because this isn't a movie about bullies, it's about people getting killed off by aliens or xenomorphs or engineers. Because you can't bully around the android or else they'll fuck you up pretty good, even if it's a joke. When he takes off the helmet and just feels the air on the planet, which on another planet, very dangerous. Even if you want to live. The doorway with the hologram of the decapitated head, which enters the tomb with the big ass head that you might have seen in the posters. That scene was interesting in a weird kind of way for it to look creepy. And has the drink that David takes and gives to... Well, I'll get to that scene. that the engineer drank in the opening scene, of course. And he chokes and dies, the engineer I'm talking about. When the storm is coming, Elizabeth grabs the decapitated head and then that got chopped off at the hologram, and then they pick it up. And as soon as the storm hits and she's trying to go grab it, that's pretty fucking dumb if you ask me. Leave the head behind, lady! David grabbing the poisonous drink thing and then gives it to Charlie and he gets sick. That's the part I was talking about earlier. And then he impregnates Elizabeth with some octopus-looking thing, and Vickers kills off Charlie with a flamethrower. It's actually rather depressing, but maybe good scene for the acting. I couldn't really say, because I just don't care for any of these characters. The deaths in here are pretty careless. Again, I don't care for any of these characters except for David. He's probably the best character because he's Michael Fassbender, for crying out loud. The look on Vickers' face when Idris Elba says, "Are you a robot?" She just looks at him like she was way too insulted. Like, "How dare you call me that, and I shall kill you." That looked a little too obvious. David discovering the engineers and sees all the plans are planets or a solar system on a blue hologram was actually a pretty neat scene. I enjoyed that moment in the film. I suddenly realized as we end the scene where Vickers burns Charlie with the flamethrower earlier in the film, or at that point in the film, that, like I said, this is a pretty movie, but it has a very weak story. And like Avatar, same studio, by the way, and that produced this movie, and it's a very pretty movie, but again, very weak storytelling. Even though, like Avatar, it was shot in 3D, but still has a very bad story. Oh, man. The scene where Elizabeth is pregnant with that alien that looks like an octopus and gets it out of her with surgery on her stomach with her eyes open, as well as when she takes it out of her and staples her stomach back together, I would have fainted. Really, I would have fainted. So you should have fainted as well at that point, lady. David started to become an unlikable character at that point after that scene, because he becomes a snitch and assists poor old Peter Whalen with the bad makeup, who we thought was dead earlier in the film, and when conveniently was asleep. Too cliche. He also goes with Whalen to the engineer and asks, "We come in peace," but he tears off David's head and hits Whalen with David's head like he was nothing, and that kills him too quickly, I feel like. It's a little too quick for me of a death for Peter Whalen. Whalen is so stupid trying to shut Elizabeth up when she was asking very important questions like what did we do wrong that you created us so badly? And she still has a guy hit her in the stomach? What a dick. I liked how the horseshoe ship lands and looked the same way as it did in the first Alien film. And I think it was the same position. I don't know. And Vickers gets squished to death by the ship, but Elizabeth ends up surviving the whole movie, including that ship that she almost got killed by. I like the final encounter with Elizabeth and the engineer, because plus some of the octopus-looking giant then kills off the engineer. It kind of reminded me at the end of the first Alien movie, where Ripley's escape pod pushes the alien away by the end of that movie. The ending shot where the engineer gets the chest burster and bursts out the xenomorph is a little questionable because, hey, it's an Alien movie, you gotta have it. But at that moment, at that last scene, it's a little questionable to me. It's in the same universe for reasons I don't fully understand this, and I'm talking about this movie with the Alien universe. And the movie ends like a TV show, which, with a cliffhanger with, oh, we'll tell you next time kind of bullshit. Just, no. The Amazing Spider-Man, which I'll be reviewing later this summer with Andrew Garfield, kind of ended the same way, and that's way too unfortunate. And this came out the same year as The Amazing Spider-Man, surprisingly. Now, it's time for the rating, because I don't quite understand this movie very well. I'm going to give it a 6.1 out of 10. It's pretty to look at, like I said, but the story, I'm afraid, is a little bit weak. See it for the prettiness, but not for the story. So next week, my review of Alien Covenant will be there, and it'll be fully detailed because I'll be seeing it in theaters. And until next time, game over, Ridley. Game over.